Hey friends, my name is Megan, and if you're new to my channel, welcome to Mustard Seed Homesteading, and if you're returning, I'm very glad to see that you're back. What we're gonna do is take a look at the garden, because now that we're officially in spring and we're past our frost date here in zone 8B, there's a lot more growth and just a lot going on in the backyard garden. But before we do that, I wanna show you all the seedlings that I'm growing in the garage still, from tomatoes and peppers and basil that I'm getting ready for the summer, but also the spring transplants that I have been hardening off and getting into the garden so that those can grow before the summer is in full swing. So let's get started. And real quick, now that we're in full swing of garden season, I think what I'm going to be doing is a monthly Greenstalk garden tour, because there's so much going on in the back. There's also bags on the retaining wall behind these Greenstalks, and I want to be able to show you guys everything. I think for the sake of time and not making these videos 2 hours long, I'm going to be doing a monthly Greenstalk garden tour, so I just want to add that in there. All right, friends, well, let's start over here. There's a lot going on, so I'm going to try my best to condense everything the best that I can. So I pretty much have tomatoes, basil, and peppers left over here, but what's left over here on the top shelf is my jicama. These did really good in the bucket garden last year, so I plan to put them in there. And then I had a Azure order recently, and I purchased 2 plants from them, so ashwagandha and then mullein. Now, if you saw my garden tours during the summertime, I already had this plant back there and it did really well, but it's a biannual. Now, it's still thriving back there, but I bought an extra one just in case, and I've never grown ashwagandha, so I'm looking forward to growing this. And then over here is my ginger and turmeric. I'm definitely gonna be planting these out this week because the temperatures have been more consistent, and I'm really looking forward to growing this. And I will say that I have been juicing a lot, and one of my favorite drinks have been ginger, carrot, and green apple. Oh my goodness, you guys, it is absolutely delicious. And then the rest of these are all of my tomato plants. Because I took a lot of my spring transplants off the shelving units, I was able to spread them out and give them some room, because you can tell, and you can see how big they've gotten. And so I'm just keeping them over here watered, fertilizing. So I water and then fertilize, water and then fertilize. Now, I'm not on a consistent schedule where I do it exactly every 2 or 3, 4 or 5 days. It just depends on how warm the garage is, and then also how dry the soil is. Now, the top, it's okay if it's a bit dry. You want to make sure that the bottom is what stays moist, because that's where the roots are going to reach for the water down there, which will give you a much stronger and healthier plant when you're ready to transplant your seedlings. And then before we go on the other side, here are some more tomato plants. These are a lot of my cherry tomato plants, but they were getting so tall that I had to put them on my steel table, and then put one of my tall grow lights that I had from using it for my lemon and lime trees. So I had to put these over here. And then over here, I finally started separating most of my pepper plants. So out of one tray, I got 1, 2, 3 full trays just from one of the trays. All I have left is this last one, and that will get done this week, so I can start taking care of them individually and getting them ready for planting. Now, I did recently make a pepper video as far as up potting and separating your pepper seedlings. I do share some tips in there that I've learned along the way from growing peppers from seed. I'll leave that in the description below, but this year has by far been the best year for my growing pepper plants, because I've just learned so much with aphid issues and all sorts of stuff in the last couple of years from growing them from seed. And then on this side is the last little bit of tomato plants. You can see I have a lot. So whatever doesn't find a home here, I'm going to try to find a home, whether I give it to friends or neighbors, because you guys, I have a lot. But they're all doing really well. And then look at you guys, look at all the basil. This just makes me so happy. The smell of this is just, it's lovely. So I have all sorts of varieties. One I'm super excited for is the Tulsi Holy Basil. I make an amazing tea from this, and it just smells beautiful. The flowers that bloom from this are absolutely gorgeous. If you've never grown Tulsi Holy Basil, I highly suggest that you do. This is, I want to say this one and this one are dwarf basil, so I'm looking forward to planting these. I planted 2 different varieties. And then the rest is just your normal like Genovese and sweet basil. This is the mammoth basil that I'm trying for the first time this year. And then that's the red Reuben basil. I love that basil. It's not only gorgeous, the color is stunning, but it's a very prolific basil and it grows a lot. And then before we go outside, this is the last little bit that I have to transplant for spring and also a little bit of summer, because a lot of these are calendulas and zinnias, and then I have dill, and those can be spring and summer. And then those are Swiss chard, which will be planted out this week. And then those are my herbs, and then a little bit of like right here and here are just some snap peas that will be planted soon. And then those were some leftover onions and shallots and leeks that I had. They're growing a little bit, but if all of them don't make it, it's fine, because I have already planted so much. And then this is a little bit leftover of arugula. So this is my job this coming week, is to get as much of this planted as possible. All right, friends, where to start? It is so hard to start anywhere. So like I said, I'm going to be doing a separate tour of the green stalks, but I do want to harvest some of the mint on top. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. Now, real quick, before I start harvesting some of that mint, I wanted to show you, look at all the blueberries that are forming on here. They're everywhere. So I want to say this is my 3rd year of having this blueberry plant in these bags. Look at all these, you guys. Look at these. They're everywhere. Last year they gave us a lot of blueberries, and I'm hoping this year they're going to give us even more. And you guys, they're just in grow bags right here. And I have them right here by some chairs, by my garage door, so that we can come out and pick them. The raspberries are starting to show on here. Look at that, so exciting. And you can also save raspberry leaves too. I did a whole video on harvesting and preserving raspberry leaves as well. But I'll show you the progression of these blueberries as I do the garden tours every week. All right, I'm going to just show you a little bit of what's going on, because I am really excited about all the growth that's happening in the green stalks. So you guys, look at, these are the potatoes. Look at the potatoes. They've grown so much. Now, I will say, I've always kind of had a little bit of a hard time growing a large yield of potatoes in the green stalks. I do grow potatoes in here, but I do have a hard time growing a large yield of potatoes. Now, I am trying something new in the backyard garden with growing potatoes, and I'll show you that in a minute. I've showed it before, but yeah, I'm still experimenting. Potatoes is one of those crops, root crops, that I want to get very good at growing a lot of, enough to supply my family, at least for a season, and then maybe do a fall growing. I don't know, but I'm still working on potatoes. But in the meantime, this looks amazing. So I'm hoping for a large yield of potatoes out of the green stalks. The strawberries are doing amazing. In fact, I actually saw one that was ready. I'm gonna pick it with you guys. It's a teeny tiny. This one I actually started from seed, the Alexandria. This one, the seeds I bought from My Gardener. Look how beautiful this is. So I'm gonna grab this. Oh, it came right off. Look at that. Got our first strawberry. And then you guys, look at this perennial tower. So there's my mojito mint. That's my favorite mint. But this is the yarrow, the stinging nettle, the marshmallow. Everything is doing amazing. I might actually, because I don't have anything at the bottom. That's a weed. I'm going to take that out. I don't have anything at the bottom right now. I might put the Tom Thumb, the dwarf snap peas down here. I'm not sure yet. I might actually put them in here where the broccolis were. I'm not really sure, but okay, I'm just talking out loud now. But I'm really happy to see that this perennial tower is doing amazing. I forgot, I didn't want to harvest this asparagus. So these are my asparagus plants. I grow them in bags. And this is on its 3rd year. This is on its 2nd year. Once it has hit 3 years, you can start to harvest. You want the plant to establish itself for a while, which is why, you know, it's suggested to start harvesting the 3rd year. So this one I can, but this one I won't yet. And then these right here are all onions. They're all doing really, really, really well, which is why I said in the garage when I was showing that if I don't get anything from those trays, it's fine because I have so much here as well as over there. Now, the broccoli is doing amazing. This one is actually starting to kind of flower on me, which is still edible. So I am going to harvest these two real quick. I want to show this to you before we go in the backyard. I don't know if you can see all of those aphids right there on the broccoli plant. I definitely waited too long to harvest. This is why you always want to keep a close eye on your garden, and you want your garden to be as close to you as possible. But this week it got a little away from me just because I was so busy trying to transplant and separate plants. So that's okay. What I'm going to do is probably just cut this top off, and then I'm going to saute the stem and the leaves because those are still edible and they're still really good. But I do want to show this to you so that you are aware to just keep an eye on your broccoli at all times. I do want to show you these bags on the retaining wall. I have been working really hard at planting these, so it is just a mix of snap peas, onions, and spinaches. I know it doesn't look like much because this is freshly planted. This one is, as well as this one. Now, because I had seeds started in the garage, some of these snap peas, I used some of the bamboo sticks for planting them along the edge of the bag to give them a little bit more support until they attach themselves to the trellis. Here's a great look at one that's a little bit more established because I planted this, I want to say about 2 weeks ago now, but look at the romaine. The snap peas are climbing, and even the onions, I know you can't really see them that well, are growing really nice in here. And then another thing I want to point out is that in between each snap pea, because I planted them along the metal line here, I will plant some cucumber seeds, some bushing cucumbers, so that those start to establish as these start to finish. Okay, now we are in the backyard garden. I'm gonna go to each bed and quickly show you all that is going on. So this one is still empty. I may actually just start my pepper plants in here and give them a good head start, as well as that bed. So this one back here, I did end up pulling everything except for that one broccoli plant because for whatever reason, and I'm not sure why, but things were not growing very well. So I am going to amend the soil a little bit more, but I kept this little guy in here because look at it is growing a little broccoli head. So I'm going to wait for that to continue to grow, but I might start the pepper plants, like I said, in this bed as well as the other bed to give them a head start. Now this bed is just super exciting. So I have onions and shallots that are all over this bed as well as the other wood bed. But you guys, look at this broccoli. It's huge. So I've never grown Romanesco broccoli before, and I believe that's what this one is, or Waltham. I have to double check. I'm pretty sure. Let me see here. I need to rewrite these. Yeah, that says Romanesco. So they actually grow really tall. I did not know that, but they're very tall. I'm loving the leaves though, and it makes me want to rip them off and saute them, but I have to be patient so that the broccoli can grow. But I have Swiss chard back there. You probably can't see it because the broccoli is completely covering it, but this bed is doing very, very well. You can see this broccoli head is already forming. And this looks like the Romanesco because it's kind of coning like a Romanesco. So, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I cannot wait. They looked really cool, which is one of the reasons why I grew them. And then here's another broccoli. I think this one is a Waltham, and I'm actually going to harvest that because it looks bug-free right now, and it looks like if it stays any longer, it's probably going to flower on me, because we've been having cool nights but some really hot days, and so it makes it really difficult to grow cool weather crops like that. But I'm going to just go ahead and harvest this whole thing. And then we have a cabbage over here at the end. Now this is a Jersey Wakefield because it is coning up. You see that? I'm sure I wrote it down, but I already know that it is because it's coning up. So that's growing really great. Everything is growing really great, you guys. So there's going to be a lot to harvest these next couple weeks. Something else I want to show you, that right there is a volunteer lemon balm plant, and I just love a good volunteer. And then right here at the end of the bed is all the chamomile, and that is doing really, really well. Now these, I did just throw some seed in the pots and they're growing really great. Now, what I do want to show you is in between the beds. So we are definitely getting a lot of snap peas, you guys. Look at all of these peas. I'm not going to harvest these right now, but they're growing so beautifully. These are the sugar and peas. But what I did want to also show you are these. So these have become my favorite. I believe these are the Oregon Giant. So a lot of the seed starts that you saw in my garage are these because they've become my favorite. I've been grabbing these for snacking. Look at how much is growing. There's one over there. There's a bunch over here. They're very crisp and very delicious, but they're very prolific and they grow really, really well up a trellis. You can see how large it is. I mean, it's almost the size of my hand. So these are really great snap peas. And then over here is the avalanche peas. These are actually growing very well too. I haven't actually looked over here in a little while. These are growing really good actually. I'm gonna grab one. Just like I grabbed the Oregon Giant. I'm gonna grab this one. And oh, I can't wait to harvest green beans with you guys. They're so fun to harvest. Okay, that was kind of hard to get, but yep, look at that. So exciting, I love these. All right, friends, the light is running away from me, but this bed, there's nothing to harvest yet, but this is the broccoli and all the shallots and onions that I've put throughout the whole bed. Now, something I did do, and I didn't share over there. So because I have this post here, I decided to try to plant a sunflower. So this bed is gonna be nothing but bush green beans this coming summer, and the trellis will be a bunch of cucumbers that I plan to plant seeds along those in the next couple days or a week or so. But I decided to put a sunflower seed near this post, and then the other side with the post. Not this post because I want to save that for the cucumbers to latch on, but I figured sunflowers get so tall and they need support, so I figured to put it next to this post so that I can grow a large sunflower on here. And then I also did the same over on this side. So every year these two beds have been tomatoes, plum tomatoes, the San Marzanos and Martina Romas, my favorite. And so on the trellis, I will do Kentucky Wonder. And while the sunflowers on each corner has helped with the Kentucky Wonders to do extra climbing, I decided, because they still fall over sometimes, I decided to plant a seed right next to this rod. And my hope is that I can tie it next to the rod, so that way it'll have support and it'll stand up so you can actually see the flower for, you know, even longer than a little bit, and then it flops over. Now this bed is all the carrots. Now I thinned out this square. I have to go around and thin out the rest of the carrots, but I tried 9 different varieties, and so far these over here are by far my favorite. They're doing really well, but I think for the most part, I think that they've all been doing pretty good. I see germination in each square that I planted, some better than others, but they all germinated. So we'll just have to see how it all turns out at the very end when we go and harvest. This bed, there's just a lot going on. So I did clean this out, I want to say about 2 tours ago with the Swiss chard. They've grown since. I'm not going to harvest today, but There's just so much going on. Swiss chard, I will say, has become one of my favorite vegetables because I've been sauteing it. It's just versatile for me and I can freeze it. Now these carrots, I am more than likely going to be harvesting this with you all either next week or the week after. I did one variety on the edge here. And then I did another variety over here to see which one does better. And then if you guys remember, I planted cilantro along the edge. It did really well last year. And so I just went ahead and did it this year again. And then we have some cabbages. I know those are Jersey Wakefields because they're coning. This one is by far my tallest broccoli. It's touching the top of the insect cover. I do not see a head yet, but hopefully it will come out soon. I know this has to be Romanesco because they seem to be really tall, but you guys look at this stalk. It is massively big. I cannot wait to harvest this. Now, this bed, I did go ahead and replant a lot of my last little bit of cool weather, you know, broccolis, cauliflower starts, and they are doing really well, except we have a kale right here. And then look at this calendula. This one's growing really beautifully. Very happy to see that. That's actually been there since the winter, you guys. It bloomed and then it died back and then it bloomed again. So, but so far this bed is doing really good. I did straw it a little bit, not too thick, but just enough to cover the soil. And so we'll see what comes of everything in the next couple weeks. These to me are super exciting. So this is a little bit newer, not the lettuce, but I re-strawed and then I added, you probably can't see them because they're still kind of babies, but I added onions because onions and lettuce are great companions. But you guys, look at this lettuce. So this is the Paris romaine. And for those always do very well for me. Those are also in the grow bags that I showed you with the snap peas on the driveway. And then red sales does really good. So I made a salad when we had homemade pizza with this lettuce and the family loved it. So this is a really great lettuce. You just pick the outer leaves and let the middle continue to grow. And because this gets sun, but it's kind of shaded from the bed, this has been like the perfect spot to grow my lettuce. Now this bed, I went ahead and planted a whole bunch of my cabbage starts that were left over with the onions. Now these onions were in here when I had the Brussels sprouts. Brussels sprouts never did well for me, but I harvested the leaves as you saw last week. And since I have sauteed them, and you guys, they were really, really good. So it wasn't a total loss with not getting the Brussels sprouts because I did end up harvesting all the leaves and they're really good. And then this bed over here is also doing really, really well. You can see the romaine lettuce, the Swiss chard. I've got broccoli growing here, a lot of broccoli, but look at you guys. This is the stonehead cabbage. It's already forming a little head. I think this is my new favorite. I think this is definitely going to be my new favorite. It is just doing beautifully. Now I will say it does take up a large space. So in the future, I'll have to be very careful with what I plant next to it. I think right here in the corner is absolutely perfect. And then just plant smaller plants next to it. Now back here is the last little bit that I want to share with you. I've been working really hard back here the last week. I've been planting seeds and then I've been filling up all these pallets with a little bit of my leftover transplants for the spring. And you can see I finally covered all of the pallets with insect netting. But I'm going to start right here. So I cleaned all this up right here. There's a bunch of weeds and leaves. And then these bags right here are 5 different varieties of watermelons. Now I've struggled with growing full-grown watermelons. So my goal this year is to plant 1 variety in each bag and see how well they do. And the reason you see rocks under there is my land slopes down. So these were pretty much leaning forward and I wanted to level them out. So I utilized the rocks on my land and I went ahead and put them under there to level them out. But I'm really excited to see how well these do. And then I put them next to the trellis here so that we can trellis them over and have some of them go along the ground and maybe even have 1 or 2 come along here and then maybe like put some staples to keep it from falling over or something. So we'll see how that goes. And then over here, I planted, because I have a hard time growing squash. So I figured, and I know this is not a squash, but, and I don't want to butcher the name, but it's the cucuzzi. It's a gourd. So it needs a trellis. So I figured I'm going to start it here on the corner of this trellis and just kind of see how it goes. So we planted those, the watermelons, and then the sunflowers. I also want to show this volunteer plant too. So this is cilantro, and it's just growing in the ground right next to my bag. And then in all of these bags are the potatoes. I do see a little bit of movement as far as they're starting to kind of poke out of the straw. So hopefully next tour you will see that. But this was my other way of trying to grow potatoes. So I didn't fill the bag all the way in hopes that as they grow I can add soil to them. So we'll see how this method works. And then so far, you guys, all this Swiss chard is doing really well. Now, I did come in with some broccoli transplants to put in there. I don't know if they're gonna grow. They might have taken a little too long for me to put them in there, but we'll see. And then this is all kale. There's that red Russian kale, you guys, that the squirrels originally ate. It's still growing, it's doing really well. So for the most part, these 3 pallets right here are full of kale and broccoli and Swiss chard, so we'll see how these do. But once summer comes, whatever's left over, I will definitely be ripping them out and putting in some summer plants. I think I'm going to be probably putting the jicama in the buckets because they did so well last year in the buckets, and that's probably more than likely what I'll be putting in here. And then here's all my lemon balm. I just recently added some compost to these just to get them some nutrition. Now starting from this side, now this pallet as well as this one minus, there's a mullein plant that I told you, or mullein, I'm probably saying it wrong, that is actually still doing very well. And then my lavender came back, you guys, so I'm really excited about that. These 2 I haven't filled yet, but I have filled all 4 of these. Oh wow, I did fill all 4. Sorry, for some reason, you guys, I work so hard sometimes and then I tend to forget things. But what I did over here, so we have a few broccolis in here, but I took all those lettuces. If you saw my seed starting videos, I did one of lettuces, and all of these have lettuces with calendula right in the middle. So I just planted these last night, as well as these 2. And this is the same. I did a lot of lettuce over here with a calendula right in the middle. And then there was a few like cauliflowers and cabbages that I stuck in the middle to see how they do. I mean, they're kind of on the small side considering how, you know, we're in April already, but we'll see. So, and then these are radishes. I do have quite a bit of beets and radishes over here. And I think some turnips. We'll see what happens with them. But so far, everything's doing really good. Now, the reason I decided to put a lot of my cool weather crops over here is for the very reason that because there's so many trees back here, it still gets sun. The same with these. All of these I actually planted, you can see a little bit right here. I put onions all the way around because I had an abundance of onions, you guys. And then these little trash cans or the wire baskets, I should say, from the Dollar Tree are covering either a cauliflower, a cabbage, or a broccoli. They're mostly cabbages. But I put onions around. And the reason I put a lot of these crops back here is, like I said, it gets sun, but it also gets a good amount of shade. And because we're having warmer temperatures, I wanted to make sure that if I was going to grow any of my spring transplants, that a lot of them were back here. And then most of the ones that are in the beds, like a lot of these are already, as I showed you previously, are pretty much almost ready to harvest in the next couple of weeks, whereas these 2 may not be, and if they don't, it's fine. I can just pluck them out and then put my summer transplants in there. And then also this whole bed right here and these 2 pallets minus a couple of broccoli transplants that I put in there. This is all garlic. So I will definitely be doing a video on this, on harvesting the garlic here, as well as harvesting the garlic in the 4 green stalks. and a wood bed down there by my herb garden. I haven't showed that to you in this video, but I have a whole herb garden along the retaining wall down there, and I planted garlic over there as well. So I'm looking forward to harvesting all that. Friends, I would love to have more time to show you my garden. I think sharing has been one of the highlights of my week with you all, because not only do I get to share what's been working and the failures of my garden, but also just the thinking behind why I do what I do. Because I don't know about you, but for me, I really enjoy hearing other people share not only their garden, but why they do certain things, because they've either learned a hard lesson from doing it the wrong way, or, you know, they just come up with an idea and it actually works. And those are the nuggets that I greatly appreciate whenever I watch or listen to garden tours. So that's my hope with this, with my garden tours every week, is to be able to share with you the successes and failures, but also the ideas behind why I do what I do. All right, friends, let's go ahead and see what we harvested today. All right, you guys, this is a lot again. So I did end up getting some Swiss chard because a few pieces were just all over the place, but I got ourselves a Swiss chard, some more Swiss chard. We got 3 broccolis back here. And then you guys, look at all that mint we got. Oh my goodness, it smells so good. So we've got the mojito mint, peppermint. This is a new mint that I started from seed and I planted in the fall. It's a lemon mint. And then we also got spearmint. We got, oops, as it falls. We got spearmint, and we got an asparagus and a strawberry, and we got some snap peas. I love these. I cannot wait to keep harvesting these. These are so good just eating as a snack, but also sauteing too. So overall, very happy with the harvest as always. Well, friends, thanks so much for stopping by. And I always look forward to seeing you guys next time. And always remember, friends, be encouraged, stay encouraged, and always stay inspired. And I'll see y'all next time. Bye.